Okay, so we're going to make a little zippy purse like a pencil case. Get me out of the way here. Okay, so we're going to make a zipper purse like a pencil case. And for this, we're going to need a zip, some outer fabric, some lining fabric. We're going to need something to cut with, so I'm using a rotary cutter and a ruler and a cutting mat. We're going to use a sewing machine. We're going to have thread top and bottom that match go with our pieces of fabric and material, and our zip. And we're going to use two different feet on our sewing machine. We're going to use a standard foot that comes over the machine and a basic zipper foot. There are different zipper foots available. This is a pretty standard one, and it usually comes with most sewing machines. So I'm going to cut my fabric. Now I'm not going to do measurements because what size is a purse? What size is a pencil case? So what we're going to do is I'm going to do it according to my zip. My zip happens to be, if you measure from the end of the zip to the end of the zip, from the start to the finish, which you can't see, I've just realised. So if you measure from the start to the end, not the end of the fabric, start to the end, this is an 8-inch zip. And today I'm not going to have a sewing over the zip. With these nylon zips, you can, it's not that difficult. There's very little chance of a needle breaking. But today I'm just going to make it easy, and we're going to sew outside the zip, not over it. And sewing over the zip will be another day's journey. So I have my lining fabric. My zip happens to be just about the width of the lining fabric. And I'm going to get my outer fabric as well. And you'll notice this is a directional print, so which means there's a direction to how you look at it. You can't just put it any old way because you'll have your bears and your foxes upside down. So we must make note of that when we're doing it. So I'm going to put my fabrics on top of each other like this, line them up. I'm going to rotate them around. Can you see this? I'll get better at these videos. So I'm just going to line it up along a line here. I'm going to, we might make a deepish one just because it's nice to be able to hold big things in it. So I'm going to, picking a line here, and I'm going to even it up here. I'm lining my ruler with the edge of this line here, which will keep it straight. And I'm going to press in. I'm just going to rotate the entire board, and I want to even this up a bit at the edge to make sure my edges are straight. So I'm going to, how can you see this? I have my ruler along the edge, and I'm just taking, I've got my line along the edge of the fabric here, so we know this is at right angles. And I'm going to even that up. Now, how I'm going to know the width is I'm simply going to take my zip, lay it along, and go, oh, that's the edge of it. So I'm going to move my ruler over here, line it up, and cut it. Right? So we're not measuring. You can, if you want. That's the way you can do it without having to count numbers. So we have our fabrics. They're not ironed. It would be better if they were, but it's not necessary at all. So we have our fabrics. They're both pointing the right way up. We have our lining fabrics, and we have our zip, right? So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put my zipper foot, because that's the first foot we're going to be using. I'm just going to attach it in under here. Sit down because I'm used to sitting when I work. So yeah, zipper foot's in, everything's in. So what I'm going to do is we're going to take two of these, lining and an outer fabric. We are going to take the zip. Now where on these ordinary zips, this where the zipper pull is, and you'll see the teeth on the surface as well, that's the top of the zip, okay? So whichever side the zipper pull is on. Some zips, you don't see the teeth, they're the invisible zips, but ordinary zips, the teeth will be on top. But the key is, where is the zipper? So we're going to put that face down onto our outer fabric, which is face up. And we're going to make sure the zip is at the top of the fabric. And then we are going to put the lining fabric on top like that. Okay? So we have our little sandwich. So we're going to make sure, I'm going to open the zip bit because we're going to start sewing at this end. And we want to get the zipper head out of the way a bit. Sticky zip. So we're going to put this face down here with the edges lining up. We're going to put this face down with the edges lining up. And then we are going to take it to the sewing machine and we are going to, with our zipper foot in place, we're going to, using an ordinary stitch, just your, whatever the standard stitch is, 2.5 mil as usual, we are going to sew. We're going to sew close to the zipper teeth. The main thing about this is not so much how close you go to the zipper teeth, but that you keep a straight line. Here we've got nice spots, so we might use them as a guide. So, there we go. And as we go, I'm going to have it set so that the needle goes into the fabric. So that means I can do a bit of maneuvering here underneath. So I'm going to pull the zip closed and get it out of the way of the teeth. Just pull it past the teeth because we don't want, or past the zip, because we don't want it going into the zip, going around it. So I'm going to keep lining it up. You can pin this, you can clip it. I tend to just hold it. And we're going to keep going all the way to the end. Yeah, that's lovely. So this is what we have. So that's one side of our purse, our little bag. It's going to go very fast. So what we're going to do is now, we're going to kind of finger press this down flat, lovely bright orange lining. And we are going to, sew, get the zip out of the way again. We're going to sew a little top stitch along the top here. Make it all neat and tidy and keep it out of the way of the teeth. So again, get our zipper pull out of the way. Now we have a clear run to the end. And is that down? That's down. There we go. Now, if you want at this point, you can use a decorative stitch along there. You can use a zigzag. You can use flowers. You can use whatever you like. It can be very pretty to use decorative stitch. I'm just going to do a nice, you can see that, nice line. Now we're going to do exactly the same with the other side. So we are going to take our fabric, pointing up again. We're going to take, here's our zip with the zipper pull on this side, and we are going to put it face down and keep the edges together. We're going to line up our fabrics at the side as well and keep them together so that they are all behaving themselves. And then we're going to put this on top here, just like this, and we're going to do exactly the same process. Honest to God, this is so quick. You'll be making little baggies for everybody. So now, okay, a couple of stitches in and lining up the fabrics, keeping the edges together, and off we go. Sometimes you might want to pull the threads a bit just to keep it all together. Neat and tight and lovely. Now I'm not pulling it through, it may look like I'm not pulling it through. What I'm doing is I'm keeping it taut. So it's being kind of kept taut at both ends. What a sticky zip. We line them up again and we finish. if you pull your fabric through, you will get uneven stitch lengths, you can mess with the tension. The machine is designed to pull it through because you have these little dogs here, these little toothy things here, and they pull, well, they go work like this, they pull the fabric through. So the machine will pull it through itself. It doesn't need you to do it for it, but it is sometimes handy to hold it a bit taut. So again, we're going to sort these fabrics out. There we go. See, they're all behaving themselves. This is going to be a very nice little bag. And just make sure it's on the other side as well. Now then, now keeping the zip on one side. This zipper foot can move either side, but it's handy just to work with it in one place. So we're going to put it, there we go, nice and close to the edge. I'll get this out of the way briefly. Yeah. Now, that's that. Now how do we turn this into a purse? So we have this, there's zip down the middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to put the right sides together, or the outsides together, and the insides together, all with right sides facing. Okay? So you can see that, all with right sides facing. And we're going to, so here's the lining. We're going to sew from here all the way around in one go to here. So we're going to leave a gap here in the bottom of the lining, about the size of your hand, just a few inches. And we are also going to open our zip bit. So open your zip bit and leave a gap. So we're going to sew a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance all the way around. We're going to match up our corners. We're going to match up our corners. And we're going to go all the way around. Okay, so I'm just going to start. When we go over the zip bit, we're not going to be sewing over the zip. We're not going to be sewing over the metal. We're going to be sewing in here. You can see the metal there. We're going to be sewing on this side of it. And on the other side, we're going to be avoiding this because our 1/4 inch seam will just skim that little metal bit there. Okay? So, be careful when you're sewing that you do skim the metal. We don't want to hit the metal. We want to avoid it. We're not going over the zip. We're just going to ignore the zip completely. Now I'm going to change my foot. And then put this ordinary foot that comes, your J foot, stick that on. There we go, behave yourself. Get our threads out of the way. And off we go. I'm going to do a back stitch here now. I'm going to do a little back stitch. Just a few stitches backwards. And that adds strength to this because there's going to be a bit of pull on this. So we're going to do back stitch at the beginning and back stitch at the end. We didn't back stitch the other seams because there would be no pull. So keeping our 1/4 inch, we're going to make sure that our seams at this side line up because we want to make sure our bag looks as professional as we can. Now I'm coming here. Now, if you're going over lumpy bits, you can be a bit more cautious. Now, and there we go. And we're going down here, and our pieces match up very nicely because we cut them very neatly. And again, we're going to have a quick look here and make sure that our seams line up. And then we're going to come into about here. We're going to leave this much space. So okay. Now, just going to go over these bits. I like to go over the bits around the over the end of the zip. Any bit that might be under a bit of strain, I like to go over it a couple of times. Sometimes it's no harm to give it a couple of extra goes. This one should do it as well. There we go. Now, that's just me. I like to go over it a couple of times, just make sure that everything is as strong and as sturdy as it can be. Any bits that might get pressure or pull. Now, I'm going to do something. Did I forget my scissors? So, we're going to use this. We have these corners, these pointy corners. There's a lot of bulk in there. This is going to be on the inside, so if we're turning it on the inside, we want to get rid of the bulk, so we're just going to trim off the corners, and we're going to be very careful to not cut our stitches. You can see the stitch line is still there. So again, all four corners, we're just going to trim off the corners. And there's only one more thing to sew in this. Now we've got this. We are now, and this is why we had to leave our zip open. So if we did leave our zip open, we'd have a devil of a time trying to get the get the bag through itself. Trying to open a zip from the outside is not easy when the zip is on the inside. Believe me, I've done it. I've managed, but it's really difficult. Now, so we're now going to reach in, and I like to just push my corners as opposed to pulling. I'll take the corners and I'll carefully just push them through, and then the rest of the bag follows. And looky here what you have. So you can open the zip a bit more. So now we can push in our bag, push out our corners. There we go. And I want you to keep a crochet hook or something around so you can push into the corners and get them to poke out. I'm just going to do this through there, so in here and here, and then these ones. But this, now we got this last hole. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this out like this. And we are going to get the seams and then pull. Okay? The fabric wants to lie the way the rest of the fabric is. So we've now got this nice. So we're going to take from here to here with a little top stitch, just as close as you can to the edge to seal it off. You can take a needle and thread. You can take out a needle and thread, and you can do sew it by hand and have a completely invisible seam. But you know what? This is on the inside of the bag. It's the same color thread as the material, so it's not going to be seen. No one's going to be looking inside your bag going, goodness, you have a seam there. And I'm going to pull out these corners and this corner, and voila! A lovely zipper purse. Now we've got a nice big pencil case that we can put our stuff into. Hooray! So that's that.